Welcome back. Well, the House and Senate both failing to pass an extension for the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, or FISA, the law lapsing for the first time since its enactment. President Trump now says he will not support a FISA bill without the Save America Act attached to it. Senate Majority Leader John Thune calls the idea, quote unquote, unrealistic. The Majority Leader told me last week why the upper chamber can't seem to pass this key legislation and the president's agenda fully. Watch. People want to be able to have rules in place that you show ID, that you have proof of citizenship to vote. How come we can't get this across the finish line?
Well, because we don't have the votes. And for me, it's a function of math. And we are, and it's a popular issue with the American public, but the Democrats in the Senate have block voted against many of the things you just mentioned, and we have put those votes on the floor. The issue with respect to the parliamentarian is one where, even under reconciliation, it has to be principally about budget and not policy. And Save America would not be at a 51 vote threshold. It would be at a 60 vote threshold under the rules.
Joining me now is Texas Congressman Chip Roy. Congressman, good to see you. You introduced the Save America Act in the House, where you and your colleagues did have it pass it. What are your thoughts on this idea the president wants to attach it to FISA? Is that realistic? Can you get that through? And then can the Senate get it passed as well?
Good morning, Maria. What the president is doing, I think, is exactly right, which is trying to put pressure on the Senate to move this important piece of legislation. As you noted, I introduced the bill 3 years ago. Senator Mike Lee introduced it in the Senate. We have passed it out of the House 3 times. As you know, and as your audience knows, it's been sitting and languishing in the Senate. But the Senate continues to hide behind this sort of fake 60-vote threshold, right? We believe that they could move under the rules, a talking filibuster, other ways to move the Save America Act. The president wants it. He knows how important that legislation is. He labeled it his #1 priority legislatively this year. FISA, you will note, we didn't get something passed last week, and quote, we went dark. But here we are. It's days later. We know that intelligence is still being collected under the laws. We have time to be able to get this right. We should send FISA back over. We've already sent FISA over to the Senate, by the way. They've got a version of FISA sitting there, and they haven't passed it. The president's upping the ante and saying, look, guys, let's do our job. The House can send FISA over, add the Save America Act to it, and tell the Senate, hey, if you want to do this, let's do it all in one big package and get it done. We think that if the Senate will do it and force the debate, force a talking filibuster, and drive it through, that they can get it done. But again, it's going to be up to the Senate to use the rules to try to deliver something that the president has identified as his #1 legislative priority this year, in addition to getting, obviously, the reconciliation packages done that we got done last week to beat the Democrats who refused to fund ICE and Border Patrol.
Right. I mean, why can't the Senate get these things done? I mean, remember a week ago, they had to deliver the immigration reconciliation package to the president's desk by June 1st. They failed that. They didn't. They went home for recess after the president supported Ken Paxton in the Texas primary, came out with that anti-weaponization fund, and now here we are again, unable to get the Save America Act attached to FISA. What's the problem? Do they not see this as something that the American people want? Is it not? And more than 80% of the American people have said in the past they want citizenship proof to vote?
Well, there's no question that the American people want to see this legislation passed. It's, again, why we passed it out of the House 3 times. It's why I authored it. It's such an important common sense piece of legislation. Now, the Majority Leader Thune, I think, is correct that they have a math problem in the Senate, right? They do have a math problem. But I think the math problem isn't so much the 60-vote threshold. The math problem is whether they've got 51 Republican senators willing to stand with the president, to stand with the House of Representatives, and stand with the American people to ensure that only American citizens vote in American elections, and to get a Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act passed that actually protects Americans from warrantless surveillance.
Yeah.
That's all we're asking for. And we're sending that over. They need to use the rules to accomplish the objective. We believe they can. Senator Mike Lee has laid this out very thoroughly. that you can force the issue by forcing an actual filibuster. Make them talk. And by the way, my argument as a former creature of the Senate, I was Ted Cruz's chief of staff, is if you want to save some form of the filibuster, right, to keep it as the cooling saucer, then you better darn well make them have to earn it. Because we believe if Democrats get control of the House or the Senate again, they're going to nuke the filibuster to pack the court, to make D.C. a state. So let's make sure that we set the rules around what the filibuster should actually be, which is Mr. Smith going to Washington. Make them actually talk.
Right. But in the meantime, John Thune also threw some cold water on the Reconciliation 3.0. I mean, there has been a lot of chatter on Capitol Hill about a potential third reconciliation package ahead of the August recess. But now you've got, what, 15 legislative days left. How are you going to get something done in 2 weeks? The president is asking Congress to pass the Pentagon's request for $350 billion in defense funding, plus the Save America Act, Congressman. How are you going to get that over if you can't do Reconciliation 3.0?
Well, that's going to be one of the important questions when we get back next week. My position is as it was under Reconciliation 1.0, right? When we are actually moving something where we work together, House, the Senate, and the White House, something that would add up mathematically. From my standpoint, that means paying for it. That means you need to have the reforms in place to get savings, to do what we want to do, to have a modernized defense budget, to ensure that our Department of War can have the tools that it needs to defend the country, and to make sure that we're also not adding anything to the deficit, and in fact, that we're reducing the deficit. If you do that, we can move a product through at 51 votes, and I believe we can move the things that we want to in order to deliver alongside what the president wants. But you got to have the Senate work with us to do that.
Well, realistically speaking, what can you get done in the House in the next 2 weeks? There are other things. There's also the housing bill, which is stalled in the Senate as well, isn't it? Well, you got 396 yes votes on the housing bill in the House.
It is. I mean, we've seen the Senate's product is not where it needs to be. It's not as strong and conservative as what we need to get through. And the House has been producing, again, good legislation. And the Senate has been the hold up in order to get something done. Obviously, we want to deliver for the American people. My view in Reconciliation 3.0 right now, let's go address the cost on the American people, the budget crisis for the average American. The president and what he's doing in Iran, hopefully gas prices are going to come down. But we got to address health care prices.
Right.
We got to address housing prices. We got to make sure we deliver so the average American family feels the benefit of the hard work of Americans. That starts with getting our job done. So that's what we need to start with Reconciliation 3 when we get back, Maria.
So we'll be watching all of that because the time is so tight, Congressman. Good to see you this morning. Thanks, sir.
Good morning, Maria.
Congressman Chip Roy. We'll be right back.